World leaders rush to speak with President Trump as oil prices plummet, forecasting a rough Monday market. Trump's administration hits the Sunday shows to defend his tariff policies, and for the first time in history, two men are facing each other in a women's championship. I'm Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Yesterday, a White House official stated that more than 50 countries' leadership and delegation groups have contacted the White House in order to start trade talks.
I got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the U.S. because I do think that the reason why we have a persistent long-run trade deficit is these people have very inelastic supply. They've been dumping goods into the country in order to create jobs, say, in China.
While we don't have a list of the 50 countries yet, we can assume that it includes countries like Vietnam, who yesterday morning offered to remove all tariffs on the United States after the Trump tariffs took effect. Taiwan yesterday morning suggested similar actions and again pledged additional investment in the United States technology infrastructure manufacturing sector. India and Israel have also suggested that they would begin lowering tariffs immediately and not retaliating against the United States in any way. Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu of Israel landed in the United States yesterday for a series of talks with President Trump that are most likely about trade negotiations, but also about the possible strike on Iran, after several armament groups have been seen moved into southern Israel over the weekend. Missile defense systems, the Iranian government has put several other nations on alert, suggesting that a possible strike might be imminent. And speaking of the Middle East as well as Donald Trump's tariff policies, Brent and WTI crude oil crashed yesterday as markets opened in Asia, with economic experts predicting that today could in fact be one of the rougher days for the stock market since the stock market crash in October of 1987, colloquially known as Black Monday. On Meet the Press, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent praised the oil prices coming down over 15% over the weekend, suggesting that this impacted Americans much more than the stock market does.
Kristen, what I like is data. And if we look at data from President Trump's first term, and there's a big study that just came out from a group of economists, mostly at MIT, that showed that a 20% tariff on China led to a 0.7% tax or price level increase over 4 years. I think that's pretty good. If we can take in 20% in tariffs and it's a 0.7% increase. And Kristen, the little publicized story this week, everyone wants to look at the stock market going down. You know what else went down? Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days, which impacts working Americans much more than the stock market does. Interest rates hit their low for the year, so I'm expecting the mortgage applications to pick up.
Well, just to be very clear, though, I mean, during President Trump's first terms, the cost to Americans was nearly $80 billion in new taxes due to his tariffs. Prices did go up on everything from washing machines to tires.
Well, no, but let's go back. The aggregate number was 0.7, so we can discern the individual things. Also, households saw real net wages go up. So if wages go up faster than prices, which is not what happened over the past 4 years, that's why the bottom 50% got eviscerated.
While Scott Bessent was on Meet the Press, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick was on CBS News' Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, making the case that Americans needed the national security of medication production as well as steel and aluminum production in the United States, which was essential through this particular tariff policy in restoring manufacturing back to the United States. Check it out.
You've got to realize this is a national security issue. I mean, we don't make medicine in this country anymore. We don't make ships. We don't have enough steel and aluminum to fight a battle right? All our semiconductors are made overseas, so every button we press when we try to start our car or even use our microwave, these are all semiconductors. They're all made elsewhere. We've got to start to protect ourselves, and we've got to stop having all the countries of the world ripping us off. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, and the rest of the world has a surplus with us. They're earning our money. They're taking our money.
Right.
And Donald Trump has seen this, and he's going to stop it. So it is going to be a big change. Of course it's going to be a big change, but the rest of the world has been ripping us off for all these many years. Donald Trump has seen it. He's spoken about it.
I understand
and he's just
that.
not going to take it anymore, and that's his model.
The most controversial exchange yesterday, though, was when Commerce Secretary Lutnick suggested that the millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones would be coming to America. And then Brennan pressed back talking about automation instead of factory workers. Check it out.
Great American workers.
You
we
said
are going to
robots
replace
on other
the
networks. You said
armies
that to
of
Fox.
millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones. That kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists. There's going to be electricians. The trade craft of America, our high school educated Americans, the core to our workforce is going to have the greatest resurgence of jobs in the history of America to work on these high-tech factories, which are all coming to America. That's what's going to build our next generation of America.
Are you?
The President of the United States also defended his tariff policies aboard Air Force One yesterday, suggesting that he is open to negotiation, but only if it is in the service of solving the trade deficit with other nations.
I do want to solve the deficit problem that we have with China, with the European Union and other nations. And they're going to have to do that. And if they want to talk about that, I'm open to talking. But otherwise, why would I want to talk? And as you know, because of the tariffs, we have $7 trillion already committed to be invested in the United States, building auto plants, building chip companies, and all sorts of companies are coming into our country at levels that we've never seen before. Biden had nothing coming in. This was a dead country with Biden. He didn't know what he was doing. And that's now been proven at last.
The president did push back against one question made by a reporter about the willingness to reach a certain point of pain in the stock market. Here's how the president responded.
There pain in the market at some point you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put? Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think I don't want anything to go down. But sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. And we have such a horrible, we have been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen. They took our businesses, they took our money, they took our jobs, they moved it to Mexico, they moved it to Canada, they moved a lot of it to China, and it's not sustainable. We're not going to do it. Now we have hundreds of billions of dollars is pouring into our country on a monthly basis. It's pouring. It's already started because I put tariffs on. And eventually it's going to straighten out and our country will be solid and strong again.
And for the first time in world history, two biological men faced each other for a women's championship title at the Ultimate Pool Women's Pro Series Event 2 in Wigan in the United Kingdom. Harriet Haynes and Lucy Smith, both trans-identified males, otherwise known as dudes in skirts, beat all of the female competitors to take the spots in the women's final event. For an issue that some, like Representative Jasmine Crockett, have called extremely rare and not really an issue considering that there are so few that desire to compete in women's sports as biological men.
According to them, the trans kids that want to play the sports, Lord have mercy, that is the biggest issue that we had. Since when? Since when? Find the little trans child that is ruining your life. Like, I mean, I'm just like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
It is interesting how quickly some of these men are reaching the championship matches in these women's divisions. Before you go, check out the description to make sure you're subscribed to the Tony Kinnett Cast, where a little bit later today we'll be talking with Adam Coleman and his new book out about the epidemic of fatherlessness and how families who have gone through extremely horrible circumstances can rebuild and make life better for kids of the following generation. It's a really good conversation. Please don't miss it. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's Top News in 10. Take care.